Alrighty, so we are here for 3P conversations, and we will do some exploring of patterns, profiles, predominantly perspectives, so
Mm,
that you and I can find our own preferences, but also enable the audience, those watching,
mm.
who are welcome to find their preferences, because there's not one size fits all. There's not one way.
Nope.
There are many, many different ways we can create that life that we love. So I'm joined by my dear friend Ian, who I was trying to remember how long I had known you, and I reckon we'd be going well over 5 years now, if not getting close to that 10-year mark.
Yeah, I think pre-COVID, I would like to say.
Definitely pre-COVID. It's funny how we measure time, and that's
I,
now well over 5 years. That
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 is
was how I got
that's
to it's
often,
over 5 years. I'm like, I'm sure it was pre-COVID. That's more than 5 years.
but we
So
say that a lot, don't we?
yeah,
People are
it's
talking about how
become
long, and somebody says pre-COVID, and you know immediately what that means. Yeah.
so my own like tracking of when we met was it was definitely pre-COVID, and then I feel it had to be post-diagnosis of PMDD for me, which was
Hmm.
2015, which is when I met Stasha. And
Hmm.
then I met you through Stasha. So I'm
Yeah.
guessing 2016, 2017, but I can't quite remember when I signed up to
Oh,
period coaching school. So that was where
yeah.
which is getting close to that decade mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Ian is an attorney, a coach, a healer. He is someone I have done a critical thinking course with and legal business courses with, and I sign up to, I think I even did your tax course despite being in another country and there being some
Yeah,
elements
you
of that
did.
were
Uh-huh.
just not relevant. I love your energy and your presence. And
Mhm.
recently, Ian has been diagnosed, I think is probably the right word, as a dissociative system. So let's start with what is a
Yes.
dissociative system, because attorney, coach, healer, most people will have some idea of what those labels mean. But we'll start with what is a dissociative system, and then you and I are going to talk about profiles and how that
Sure.
impacts.
A dissociative system is a collection of separate identities inhabiting the same body. We are currently at least 19. I say that because we are 19 and well, we're
I was going to
19 or
say that's
21,
gone up since
depending.
you and I spoke about it last. Like it keeps
Yes. So
increasing.
the number changes and we can talk about why that is. But we have, or I like to say we experience
Mm,
what is clinically known as dissociative identity disorder.
mhm.
And this is a trauma response based on repeated trauma in childhood or repeated, physical, emotional trauma or neglect that's like consistent and serious and repeated. It becomes a survival mechanism
Mhm.
where you grow up with more than one identity inside. So I say we because there are many of us inside. We feel like different people sharing the same body. That's how it feels to us.
Yeah.
This used to be called multiple personality disorder. That was changed to dissociative identity disorder in the early 90s for a lot of reasons. Many because it's not really a personality disorder. There are personality disorders like
Mhm.
bipolar and antisocial and narcissism and borderline. Those are personality disorders. This is not a personality disorder, although there is a large comorbidity with personality disorders.
Yeah.
It's an identity disorder, and we are not different personalities. We are different identities, each of whom has a personality.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, what came up as you were speaking just then, just to put it in context for anyone not familiar with I don't even like the term disorder. I think that's because I live in the earlier realms of this and
Yes.
resonate with multiple parts inside of me.
Hmm.
And there are some of them that have different identities and personalities. So the term disorder kind of it triggers me on a lot of
Yes.
autism
We
spectrum
sometimes call it
disorder sometimes doesn't fit either.
dissociative identity strategy is also a term that is
Yeah,
now
yeah,
some.
that feels a lot more. But what I remembered when you were speaking was years ago when I started playing with parts work and looking at different parts. There was a video that came up in YouTube's algorithm stuff, and it was a lady with dissociative identity disorder,
Mhm.
and she had 2,500 distinct
Yeah.
identities and had very significant trauma. I'll link to the video down below if anyone's interested. It was a 60 minutes video, and she was the first in Australia to be allowed to testify from the different
Mm,
identities to convict
mhm,
her abuser.
mm.
And so what came up was for some people, 21 is going to seem like a lot, but to contrast that, 2,500 is sort of, and I expect that's one of the more significant and extreme
Yes.
recorded identities.
There
And
is a
then,
spectrum for sure. And to
yeah,
be diagnosed with DID, if you meet all the criteria, you really only need two or more. And so there are a lot of
yeah,
DID systems that have three, four, five. The
yeah,
average for a male body is somewhere around 12 to 15. So we are above
yeah,
average in the number of us inside, but we are not like extraordinary. There are people with hundreds and thousands, and they have
yeah,
a hard time functioning in daily life.
yeah. Yeah, what impressed me so much, I wish I could remember her name, and I can't at the moment. She had gone with those 2,500 identities, and she'd gone to university, she'd become a lawyer, she'd gone through the legal
Hmm.
system, and she was clearly finding a way to function with
Yeah.
a lot of psychological support. And I think the majority of us can, I don't know. I'd love to meet the person that doesn't. You and I were talking about it before we got on the call. The person that has no splits within, and how do they operate and function? I don't know that I know anybody like that, because every time I speak
Hmm.
about my different levels of parts and how I play with my different archetypes, everyone can relate at some point to having
Hmm.
part of you wants this and part of you wants that. Like there's those two distinct, and that internal
Yeah.
conflict. And so I think most of
The
us,
angel and the demon, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
it's how do we reconcile and bring together. It's one of the NLP techniques, is how to bring them together. And so
Hmm.
yeah, it's like part of, and I think if we bring this to profiles to keep us slightly on topic, there's a part of me
Sure.
going, you're wandering, Amy. I'm like, yeah, and I'm happy wandering, but we'll come
Yeah,
back
that's
to topic.
fine. Uh-huh.
For my husband and my daughter are most extreme at this when we do profiles, because we use profiles a lot in my house, and I frequently allow my family to be the people I experiment on
Mm.
first. So I experiment on myself, and then I experiment on
Hmm.
my family in understanding the different profile results that can come out. And inevitably, when I sit Michael or Tori down to do the profile, they will go, but none of these and all of these are accurate. And so
Yeah.
as they're answering questions, it's, but none of these and all of these, which I think is the false dichotomies being contrasted
Hmm.
in, to use a
Yeah.
critical thinking term. I think it's a critical thinking term. So what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Uh, it's funny. You and I are so in alignment and have been for a long time that you say things and I'm like, yeah, what she said. Yeah, basically, right. But yeah, I see it as a spectrum where maybe I don't know if I know anyone who's far on one side of the spectrum where they are a single, completely cohesive identity without
Mm.
parts inside. I have
If
no
you
problem
exist, reach
believing.
out, messages. We'd love to
Oh,
meet
yeah,
you.
we would love to know how you function. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have this woman, and I've seen the video on her too. I believe she's in
Mm.
Australia, right? Who
Yes, she
has
is. She's Australia.
2,500
Yeah.
identities, and you have everything in between. And we work as a healer, we work with a lot of folks on some of their inner child stuff. That's basically inner parts work.
Yeah.
And there's internal family systems is a well-known therapy technique to work with your internal parts,
Yeah.
get them working in harmony. Um, it becomes what they call a disorder clinically. But I agree, we don't always experience it as a disorder right now. We're starting to experience it more as an adaptive mechanism rather than maladaptive.
Yeah.
Um, but it starts to get towards there when each part, so for us, you can call us parts or alters, we really believe we're different. Like,
Mm.
whoever's fronting, like I'm me. I'm not
Yeah.
them, and they are not me. I am me. And they don't all know what I'm up to right now. Some of them
Yeah.
are listening and active. Some of them are dormant. Some of them are in the background doing their own thing. Some are doing their internal jobs. There's always internal work to be done, just like, you know, you can think of me. So I'm right now, you're speaking to the host of the system. which all that means is that I control the body most of the time. That's it. That's my primary job, is to control the body most of the, because it's easier to get through life if one identity is controlling body most of the time. It's just
Yeah.
easier. So I'm like the cruise director on the ship, but we got the engineers and the maintenance staff and the
Yeah.
laundry people and all the, the cooks, and everybody's doing work inside. And without all of them doing that work, I wouldn't have a body to host.
Yeah.
And so, but we all see ourselves as different, and yet we know we're all crewing the same ship, and we're starting to work together. Now, this used to be the dissociative part for us,
Mm.
is that sometimes we can raise memory barriers between what's going on. So I don't have all of the memories that the entire system as a whole has. I have access to the memories of when I'm in control, and I have access to the memories that people let me have access to.
Mm.
Right. But there's a lot that I have massive gaps in my memory of this body's life. Um,
Yeah.
Partly because I'm one of the younger alters in the system and I wasn't around for a lot of it.
Yeah.
And partly because just we haven't brought those barriers down all the way yet. We're kind of, we've gone from like separate rooms to now we're like in cubicles where you can look over the cubicle and say, "Hey, how you doing, buddy?" Right.
Yeah.
And then there are still times where we have a discontinuity. I'm looking at a notebook right now. A few weeks ago, there was something. This is a notebook I used for, oddly enough, an event about a year and a half ago where they were kind of doing profiles and talking about our identity. And I thought, that's about when things started to go haywire in our system. And I thought I should see what I wrote down in that notebook. I went to reach for it, and suddenly the notebook was gone.
Mm.
And it took us several days to find it, and it was hidden under a pile of dirty clothes in the closet.
Yeah.
Right? There's no reason for, and but I don't know who did that.
Yeah.
Now, having gone through it now, I see why somebody wanted to hide it. It was very revealing.
Yeah.
And I still don't know who did it. And that's okay. I know they're listening. Like, I'm not upset. I don't need to know right now. That's fine. The point is, we
Yeah.
did find it. So we do have
Yeah.
those discontinuities. That's the dissociative part of it. Yeah.
I think that's also where the disorder part comes in as well, because
Yes.
if you've got those gaps of time or those gaps of experience, it's hard to operate in everyday
Yeah,
society.
it's difficult to get around in the world, right? So we are to the point now where 90% of the time, whichever identity is, we call it fronting when you're controlling the body, whichever
Yeah.
identity is fronting, that identity knows who they are, where they are, what they're doing, why they're there, and knows what happened
Yeah.
leading up to it. So we're starting to experience it less as a disorder and more as simply as an adaptive strategy for us to get through life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when it comes back to that inner harmony, when all of
Mm-hmm.
those parts or alters are playing together,
Yes.
it's because there's definitely times where I will call on a part of me to come forward.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they'll call on themselves. The other day, so one of my parts is a cat, and
Mm-hmm.
it is quite a content, very cute cat.
Yeah.
Um, and we spent the day just curled up in bed. Like, you think
Oh.
cat, and but we were contented curled up in bed. We've certainly spent days. I don't know what part
Mm-hmm.
that is, but we've spent days curled up in bed, not content and
Right.
quite miserable. Um, but this wasn't that. It was, I'm content, and we found a sunny spot and we curled up, and I can hear my cats jingling
Mm.
outside, and it's very
Mm-hmm.
much that energy. But it was almost a conscious choice by
Yeah.
what you refer to as the system. I don't know that I've got a term for that yet. The system seems suitable, whether I find another
Mm.
one or not in time. But it's that allowing the choice. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, that is what the gift of profiles is that it allows choice. So the irony
Mm.
of doing something that's going to box you in to actually
Mm-hmm.
expand the box is how I've
Yeah.
always approached it. I never get back my results and allow that to become a fixed
Mm.
identity. I'm trying to check if never is accurate. It probably isn't quite accurate. But in the
Mm-hmm.
last decade, I have not allowed that to become the box. And
Mm.
when I do profiles, I tend to look to behind the scenes. It's like, what are the contrasts here? And
Mm-hmm.
are they genuinely so introversion, extroversion, and it's one that bugs me because there's about 8 different definitions out there depending on where
Yeah.
you play, and that's okay. But you've got to know which definition is being incorporated into the profile
Mm-hmm.
that you're playing with, because that's how the questions are formed, are from the definitions.
Right.
So for one of the definitions is the social versus not social. Now that's
Mm-hmm.
very clearly a true dichotomy there, like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not an always thing, but you can't concurrently be social and not social, because they are, by definition, they are
Yeah, you
opposites.
can, that's phrased that way. Yeah, the easiest way to phrase a true dichotomy is simply add the word not.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that's often, ironically, not what's happening in profiles. They're
Right.
bringing in multiple components and framing them as opposites. What
Mm-hmm.
comes to mind is the color wheel. So if you've got the color
Mm-hmm.
wheel, you've got, I'm trying to picture a basic color wheel, but you've got red, green, blue, and then you've got the colors between them. So
Yeah.
between green and blue would be, green's not the right color, yellow and blue would be
Is
green. And so
yes.
therefore red and green in theory are opposites. And
Mm-hmm.
on the color wheel, they would show up like a basic 6 color wheel. They would show up
Right.
as opposites, but they're not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
true opposites, which is where people tend to go with the
Yeah.
personality
It's like
traits or
saying the sky is either blue or pink.
yeah,
Now, I've seen a pink sky and a blue, we've seen the sky in lots of different colors, right?
yeah,
But you could say the sky is either blue or not blue. That
yes,
that would
yes,
be correct. And then you might get into, well, what shade of blue and what definition of blue? And same thing with, like you said, with introvert, extrovert. Well, what do you mean by social?
yeah. And what do you mean? Yeah, the introvert extrovert. It's one my husband and I fight over all the time, and it's the false dichotomy, but it's also the false equivalencies.
Mm-hmm.
Because I studied Myers Briggs quite in depth, and I have no idea what the blurbs are. Like if you go and you do a Myers Briggs profile or a 16 personalities profile, which are the
Yeah.
same kind of thing, at the end of it, you get a blurb. I have no idea what any of them are, and I don't care,
Mm-hmm.
because to me, they are false equivalencies.
Mm-hmm.
They've taken the underpinning answers and then made up a story. And some people will resonate with the story, and that's fine, and some people won't. What I'm looking at is the underneath bits, and behind Myers Briggs are the cognitive functions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent a lot of time studying the cognitive functions. And my husband heard that, and then he's taken, so the introverts I do this and the extroverts I do that, and I'm like, you are using introvert and extrovert so incorrectly by no
Right.
one's definition in the world except your own.
Uh-huh.
um, and he attaches it to learning styles. So, and it annoys me so much that I haven't actually embedded what he says, but I think it's the extroverts need parameters and the introverts need techniques. And
Mm-hmm.
so I acknowledge that there are introverts and there are extroverts, and I
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge that there's a different preference between parameters and techniques, but those two things do not go together necessarily. Like you can
Right.
be an extrovert, and I've witnessed this, but it works really well for him. And because of the way he defines introvert and extrovert, which is very different to the rest of the world, it actually ties to those. And he uses that when he's training his
Yeah.
minions at work. He calls them minions. I'm trying to think of
His
like a more
minions. Yes.
political correct word. His driver trainees.
Well,
Um,
and that's the fun thing about so many of these psychobabble terms too, is how I'll use them. I was in group therapy this morning, and we talked about the concepts of joy and happiness and the difference between joy and
mm,
happiness. And the conversation went off the rails quickly. But it was beautiful because our main takeaway was that we all define those terms totally differently.
so differently.
Right. And so I ended up realizing, like, there was one gal in there who had this absolutely beautiful, wonderful definition of the word joy that she settled on that reflects the joy in everything in her life. And that definition was meaningless to me. But that's okay, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm not living her life and she's not living mine. And right. But it was still
Yes.
beautiful to see how we use all these words totally differently.
Which ties in really well to perspectives. So to truly
Mhm.
understand someone's perspectives, we have to understand their definitions.
Mm.
It was one
Mhm.
of the very first questions I learned in my coaching training that stuck. And it was the what does blah mean to you? So what does
Right.
joy mean to you? What does And it was one of those moments I remember with my husband. We were in battle, like massive battle. Those first years where I was going to coaching school, I was doing all this personal development work.
Mm.
I'd leave the house, I'd go away for the weekend, I'd tap into parts of me that had been suppressed and denied, and then I'd
Mhm.
come home and nothing at home would have changed. And it would
Mhm.
be very uncomfortable. And so we were in this screaming match, me screaming more so than him, around support. And there was just this little voice popped in and said, "What does support mean to him?" Which it was so tempting just to go, like your face just said it all then, Ian. It's like, just no, I don't want to ask that question. I don't want to know what support means. It doesn't support me the way it means. And I
Yeah.
said, neither of us had the capacity to actually dissect that. Like we were both so in antagonized. So I tend to be an anxious attachment style. He tends to be avoidant. So he just
Mhm.
wanted to run away and hide, and I just wanted to continue screaming. And I said, "Look, let's
Mhm.
take 10 minutes out, and each of us go away and write down what support means to us."
Mm.
And we each wrote down 10 to 20 things, and we came back, and none of them matched. Not one thing on either list matched the other one.
Yeah. But that's okay,
When you
right?
know.
Because once you know, because then you're thinking, oh shit, I'm not supporting him in the way that he would feel supported.
Well, I wasn't at that point, and that would have been the more mature. It was so everything on his list he did, and I'm
Hmm.
like, I can see now why you're yelling at me. Of course, I support you because everything
Hmm.
on his list.
Right.
So we were still focused on me and my support needs, but
Hmm.
everything on his list he did, and everything on my list he had no clue. I can't remember. There was one of them, and I've got Alison Armstrong wrote a book called Queen's Code, I think, maybe the other one, Keys to the Kingdom. But in that, the wife goes home and is talking to her husband, and they're talking about taking out the trash. And I can't remember the exact wording around it, but he is amazed at how important taking out the trash is to
Mm.
her sense of feeling loved and appreciated. Like,
Mm.
he's like, that would matter to you? That would make me important to you? And that
Hmm.
was how Michael was responding to this list. It was oh, but those definitions, generally when we're doing profiles, they're not sharing the definitions.
Right.
What does
Right.
this word mean? Um, there's a big profile I do that's got, it's got 20 times 4, so it's probably got about 100
Hmm.
different words that it gives you a score on. And it's not one of my favorite profiles. It's not in my profile list, but I did it again the other day because I could. And I've got 7 profiles over a decade where I've done it
Mm.
again and I can see the changes.
Hmm.
None of those words are defined the way I would mean them to. So
Oh, that would
they're
drive
often
me crazy.
defined, but they are often defined. It is one where it does have the definitions, but you've got to read the definition and go,
Right.
oh, that's what they mean. And a lot of the profiles don't have that.
I appreciate that that one gives you the definitions because I'm more likely to get a result that's at least somewhat useful to me. If
Mm,
when they say X and I know what X means, I can then say, oh no, well, X as defined, yes, that does apply. Or no, doesn't
yes,
apply. Hmm.
yes. And sometimes it's easy to go, oh, well, that's what they mean by X. That's what they would have used in the questions. And while I think I
Hmm.
had, so I can't remember what it was. There was something the other day I looked at. I'm like, why is that so low? Like it didn't feel congruent at all.
Hmm.
And then I read their definition. I'm like, and then I could see the questions that would have been answered. And with that
Mm.
definition, I would have answered differently because
Right.
I was using my definitions when I was answering the questions. And so the result gets skewed, which is not where I thought we were going to go with this conversation, but I think that understanding the definitions behind the profiles makes a really key piece in having them be useful.
Hi, Amy.
And
This is Amber.
hi, Amber. It is delightful to meet you. You and I have been
It-
connecting at a
yeah,
distance. for want of better
Yes,
words.
we have
Yeah.
connected, and we have spoken before, though I may not have used my name when doing so.
Ah, well, nice to
Um,
meet you properly.
yeah, well, until 6 months ago, we hid what we were from the world. We
Yeah.
and really only in the last 2 months have we completely come out, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, but for us, these profiles have been an exercise and sometimes an exercise in futility. At least
Yeah.
we might find them more useful now that our system is fully aware of itself and operating in some more harmony, because we
Yeah.
can take turns consciously now who's fronting when we answer it.
Yeah.
But we used to take these profiles and somebody different would answer the questions every time. And then we would get frustrated that we couldn't get any information out of it. The people around us would get frustrated that we couldn't answer what seemed like basic questions to people. Other people would answer and they're like, all it says is basically, do you like this or like that? And we're like, I don't know. I don't know if I like this, or I don't know if I like chocolate or vanilla. I don't know.
Yeah. There's the
Um,
I don't know. There's just sorry to jump in. There's
mhm,
two responses I've got from clients when we've had difficulties with profiles. One is that I don't know when I genuinely
mhm,
can't answer, and that one I relate
yeah.
to quite well.
Oh,
The other
yeah.
is yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, I like chocolate and vanilla. Well, pick one. No, the answer is yes.
I don't want to pick one. Why should I have to? And the system brought me forward. So it reminded us of, we took a number of these career profiles back in
Yeah,
high school, or I'm not sure. Do you call it high school or secondary school, or I'm not sure what
we have high
it's,
school. Yeah, generally
yeah.
we have. Our years are
Um,
slightly different to yours, but where
yeah,
you'd
but
be doing career profiles, it's to be towards the end of what both of us call
yes.
high school. Yeah,
Yeah, kind of years 11 and 12 in
yeah,
our system.
yeah.
So,
Same in ours.
and we ended up, our early career was in engineering and manufacturing. Then we went into politics and law. And we've been very happy and gotten a lot of fulfillment out of what we did. We went into the right career paths. Those profiles consistently said that we were supposed to be a fashion designer. That was me.
I was going to say, and there's an alter that fits that. I'm
That
guessing.
was me. That was me. Um, that was me answering the questions. And
Yeah.
then, of course, the host would come back and look at the result and say, fashion designer, what the fuck? I'm going to be an engineer. I already know I'm good at that and like doing it. This makes no sense. And then the career counselors would say, well, you should trust the profile. And we're like, no. So that was me. But again, we didn't really know what we were at the time. I've always known we were multiple because just the nature of how I was born into the system meant
Yeah.
I needed to know we were multiple to perform my functions. But typically our hosts have not known that we were multiple. And so there would be a lot of confusion there.
Yeah. What's disappointing to me in that is that the career counsellor doesn't have the education. I know this is one of the things that the system sort of shared at the beginning, was raising the
Mm-hmm.
awareness of this, so that the career counsellor can go, okay, we're clearly getting a disparity between what's being said and what
Mm-hmm.
the profile is saying. How is that happening? And to have that fleshed out then, rather than
Yeah.
30 years
Yeah,
in the future.
there's most of us are walking around undiagnosed. We're a
Yeah.
much larger percentage of the population than people realize, but most of us don't know it. We didn't discover we were multiple until we were 50. Again, we meaning the system as a whole, because some
Yeah.
of us inside always knew, but the
Always knew.
system
Yeah.
as a whole didn't know until we were 50.
Yeah.
But had we been discovered to be a multiple in those years, this would have been the late 1980s, early 1990s, it would have gone very poorly for us.
I was going to say it wouldn't have gone very well.
No, there was a reason we hid.
Yeah.
Whenever we did give any hint of what we were, we faced persecution in various forms. And so
Yeah.
fully coming out with, no, this is what we are, would have meant we would have been locked up and put on antipsychotics. And that would have been that. And we'd probably still be locked up today.
Yeah. And so from that perspective, the waiting is ideal. In today's day and age,
Yeah.
though, it's something that people need to be empowered to be able to identify and help navigate.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's the underpinnings of the profiles, the patterns that are held underneath, that become the
Mm-hmm.
gift, where we can say yes, So are you big picture or are you detail focused?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I can do either. And if I go into my parts and get them to do the profiles individually, I get far more distinct. Some of my parts are still a yes to that question. I've got protesting in my mind. But
Right.
some of them are very, very distinctly different. And I can then choose, okay, I need to be detail focused and create color coded spreadsheets down to like massive details. And I
Mm-hmm.
can do that. And then I can also look at those color coded spreadsheets and see the big picture. And so it's definitely a yes for me.
Mm-hmm.
But if I dissect it into my parts, it becomes much clearer. But looking at the pieces of the profiles, which is always my encouragement to anyone, take the profile quiz and
Mm-hmm.
see what the results are, but then use it as an expansion exercise.
Right.
So,
And some of the listeners might have gotten the impression that like that you and I are that we're like anti-taking profiles, which is not it. It's
oh,
just
not at all.
we kind of started off with the limitations of them, and the
Yeah.
limitations are very real, but they can be very empowering
Yes.
if done with an open mind. And I loved what you said at the beginning about the profiles try to put you in a box, and it's ironically, it's by trying to fit in the box that you discover that you don't fit in a box and that you actually fit in this, you're just this big, weird shaped puzzle piece. And that's great.
Yeah. Yes. And particularly when there are those multiple parts. And I go back to if anyone doesn't have that and does feel like this fully integrated, there's no contrasts, I would love to meet you and have conversation. It
Mm-hmm.
would delight me. But utilizing the profiles, utilizing the pieces, so they don't become our identity, they become
Mm-hmm.
the expansion of our identity, at least
Mm.
for myself. It's, and this thinking of the career profiles, there's obviously a part and alter that fashion design is appealing to, and then it's not necessarily become the fashion designer, it's how do you incorporate that into the lawyering and into, and
Right.
if I think about like what I know of the last decade of how you've been playing, you really bring a heart-centered approach to the lawyering, and you bring like the critical thinking. I watched a video that we'd done. I've been scrolling back through
Mm.
YouTube videos to see if
Mm-hmm.
they aligned or if I needed to create a new channel, and they aligned enough. I was watching a
Mm-hmm.
video that we'd done probably 5 years ago, and we were talking about the critical thinking, and the first piece in that was you have to bring the empathy to it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but that's not how critical thinking is normally taught. It's normally that very logical. So having,
Right.
and I suspect in part, but that's you coming forth going, well, we're going to bring empathy to the critical thinking.
You
And
can
so,
see my influence in a lot of what we do. I don't design clothing, but I do try to keep us aligned with our values, and I'm very big
yeah,
with compassion and empathy, and I look for beauty and creativity and elegance in things.
yeah.
And there is a
And
lot of that in how we teach critical thinking and legal and taxes, where it's a lot of it's looking for the elegant solution.
yeah, yes. And that's what I was just about to say. You can bring that to anything. So
Hmm.
it's understanding values, understanding priorities, understanding preferences, the title that we have of lawyer or attorney or um, even heal, like any of those, we can bring our values to it and not get confined into, well, lawyers are X.
Right.
It's how do we bring that? And so knowing that we get to experiment and play, and it's that expansion. It's not I am this one thing. It's I am
Hmm.
many things. How do I blend them?
And that's for everyone with their parts. Your
Yes.
parts may not be to the point like us where you're separate alters in a system,
Yeah.
but you have your parts and they all are influencing you either actively or passively, and they all want to come out and play.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, like I look at the difference in my husband in different places. I'm just testing if he'd be okay with me sharing this. I don't think he would be.
Mm.
Um, it's it's very distinctly different. So I know if I want conversation with my husband, we have to get in the car because we
Mm.
can't have conversation. We can have fights in the kitchen, but we can't have conversation in the kitchen. You can only
Mm.
argue in the kitchen. You
Interesting.
can't have conversation. If we're out in public, um, there's very limited conversation that can be had
Mm.
over a coffee table, like a cafe table. If I want deep, meaningful conversation, we go in the car. So for
Mm-hmm.
him, he's definitely got the parts, and we've talked about the different parts, but they have different places where they're allowed to come out.
Mm-hmm.
His is very much situational and environmental. And that's okay. And for some people that will happen. They've got their work persona and their home persona. And that was, for me, was what was breaking in the original years of going and doing the personal development, was that I had this persona that I had that would come out while I was at coaching events. And then I would come home and it would want to continue to play, but it wouldn't be, I don't even know that welcome is the right word, but it didn't feel welcome.
Or it just wasn't the time and the place.
Well, and
I
I think
mean,
because my husband very much had the places,
mm,
whereas for me, it's often the people. And so for him, it's places. For me, it's people. And for everyone, it's going to be something different. But
yeah.
tapping into, do all of those parts feel
Mm-hmm.
like they've got the space? And so for you, Amber, you've come through and you've made sure that the beauty and the values and possibly sometimes despite or in spite of the host altar that's there and sort of behind the
Mm-hmm.
scenes, but it does shine through. And that will be true for all of us. There will be parts of us. I remember one of the exercises we did at personal development training was, how do other people see you?
Mm.
And we stood like a group of 4 and everybody shared their
Mm-hmm.
perspective. And they were so varied. And part of that is that we were seeing in others what's reflected on, and it's what we're
Mm.
comfortable with. But
Yeah.
it was interesting to sort of pause and look at that. But allowing the profiles to, and other people's perspectives to be one piece in the puzzle of who
Mm-hmm.
we are. I've quite decided that I don't like the question, who am I? Like
Mm.
I'm really at, what am I right now? And by the what, it's the what components can I access with ease and what am I still pushing away from?
Right. We have, hang on. Everybody here loves you, Amy.
Well, that's nice.
There are
I'm
so
sure there's
many
a
close
part of you that I could piss off if I tried, but I'm not going to try.
there's so many close to front because we love the discussion and we love you. So if guys, if we could just choose one person, I don't need to stay. Who wants to come forward? By the time they come out, we're gonna forget what were we just talking about. Remind me.
I've forgotten already.
Oh my,
Um,
because we're like mid dissociation, right?
and that's
Um,
okay. I think that's so important for people to understand the difficulties that come with such prominent parts.
this is the oh my goodness. Can somebody just get in the front of the line, please? Because I'm now losing the memory of the conversation. This is the disorder part of the disorder.
Yeah, that's okay.
And
We'll
although
find a place to
you
come
can
into the
see
conversation.
you can see me smiling as I say that though, because there is this weird, strange delight. Like I am not alone right now in the head. Hi guys. Who wants to talk? Yeah. Okay. Somebody we apologize. Although no, we don't because we've stopped. That's one of our new values is we stop apologizing for who and what we are. We have a
I
right
was,
to exist.
I was just about to say, you don't need to apologize. I actually think that for anyone curious about what this looks like, this is such an important piece.
This is what it looks like in real life. It's not like the
Yeah.
movies. At least in us. And you're this is still Amber speaking just barely. Oh. Hi, Amy.
Who did
My
we
name
end up with after all that?
my name is Stephanie.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm not really sure what I'm doing here.
You got pushed to the front of the line because
Yeah,
no
I
one else
got
could
pushed out. I
decide.
was close and watching, but nobody else came forward, and then I just kind of slipped through, and I didn't really mean to. Oh,
And you are welcome all the same.
what were we talking about?
I have no idea anymore. Something about profiles or perspectives.
Parts and profiles.
Parts. Finding the pieces. So it was the pieces and the places and the people
Mm.
and how they
And
come
who
out.
am I
Maybe
and what am I?
who
Is
am
that
I
where
and
we?
what am I? Yeah, I think that's where
Yes.
we were.
Um, I know the system had to say something on that. Mm. We have somebody else explain this. Oh God, I don't know how to explain it. Somebody else come out. I don't want to. I don't. I guess part of raising awareness is being vulnerable and showing what it looks like in real time.
Yeah.
Um, somebody else explain it. I understand what the system is trying to say, but I'm not good with the words for it.
I think just before you disappear, and that's okay if you wish to disappear, I think that's such an important piece in terms of my understanding of profiles. So if I look at the
Mm,
Myers-Briggs, there's the thinking and the feeling, and to me they're the logic and the values. But so much of the right brain side of stuff, to use that distinction, right brain, left brain, logic, feeling, doesn't have
yeah.
words. And it is
No,
exceptionally difficult for people to put into words. And it's an
I am a
important
more
part to recognize.
experiential alter. I am,
Yeah.
I mean, I have my own logical side too and words, but I'm a trauma holder and a caretaker of the littles.
Mm,
And I very much, when I'm fronting, I like to experience the simple things in life. You know,
mm,
my feet in the grass or going grocery shopping.
yeah.
Okay. Yes, you explain it. Okay. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
I'm actually the Ian you first met.
Ah, lovely to see
I'm
you
I'm
again.
the I'm the system's former host. So I was the host for about 25 years up until Labor Day 2018 when our current host took over. So it would have been me who you met initially.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So okay, so what the system was thinking instead of who, what, we've been trying to move away from questions just in so many areas of life. Less about who and less about why and less about how and just asking what.
Yeah.
What? Just observing without judgment, without labels. And much of it is we go back to the Zen Buddhist practice of looking at something. So I have this can
Mm,
of bubbly water and looking at it and saying, what is this? And
mm,
my brain says it's a can. No, 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 no. What is this? It's a can with water. No, what is this? It's a can with water with no. What is this? And you just ask it over and over and over for hours. And so we've been using that Zen Buddhist practice of, because a monk will just sit there and stare at a wall for
mm,
24 hours straight saying, what is this? Until they reach some sort of, transdimensional insight. We've been doing that inside,
yeah.
not who am I? What am I?
Yeah.
No, no, really, what am I? What am I? And just over and over. So we love the
Yeah.
question, what?
Yeah. I'm loving what am I? And that it is that practice of it allowing that to expand and morph.
Hmm.
It's not asked once and you've got the answer. That's a very surface level, superficial answer that will come forth.
Hmm.
It is allowing for big word in my head that I can't pronounce.
Mm.
We'll try. Transcendental
Yes.
experience where we go
Hmm.
beyond. So yeah, okay, it's a cup, but it's molecules and it's all kinds of things.
Yeah,
There's
you
an
do it's
exercise.
molecules, it's atoms, it's quarks, it's leptons and no, but what is it? Yeah.
There's an exercise, and it was who are you, um,
Mhm.
which I'm more inclined to go to what are you rather than who, and I think it's because I'm
Mhm.
looking more at it from a different lens, and the identity piece for so many is so fixed. What are you
Mhm.
capable of? What are you? What are you doing? What are you being? Like there's so many more options in that, and
Right.
it's more
And you hear
fluid.
it all the time in the I am statements, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
and I both, I think you do this also with your clients. We're always working with clients on reframing their I am statements.
yeah.
So you meet someone for the first time. This is a classic example, and they look at you and you say, "My name's Ian," and they're like, "Man, I'm so bad with names." Well, then you are bad with names. That
You've
is now
taken it
part of
on
your
as an
identity.
identity. Yeah,
And you will keep proving you're bad at names by forgetting my name,
yeah. So
right?
the I am statements, and they often become the limitation. And so this
Hmm.
exercise that we did was, who are you? For example, I am Ian, or I am whatever it is that you say to that. And the
Hmm.
answer back was always, yes, you are. And you are so much more than that. Who are
Hmm.
you? And it's that
Hmm.
continued expansion of identity,
Hmm.
because the fixed, this is who I am, is is such a challenge.
Hmm.
And for me, that's what profiles are meant for, is to be the expansion. But so many
Yes.
do them as the, well, I am, what are my letters? ENTP. I am an ENTP.
Yeah.
But I am so much more than that. And I
Well,
can,
it's difficult. That expansion is scary,
oh, absolutely.
right? So as people use the profiles, I think, I don't want to speak for everybody, right? I know we have used the profiles because the expansion and the unknown was scary, and we were basically screaming, can someone just put us in a box?
Yeah.
Please. So we know what we are. And I don't know where to draw that box. So I'm going to take this profile and let it draw the box for me instead of, like you say, using this profile to learn and to say yes and yes and yes and.
Yeah. And I think you've tapped into, in the beginning, that's what I was looking for. It's like, would somebody else just tell me who I am meant to be? Because I
Hmm.
can be anything and anyone. Somebody
Oh,
else tell me who I am meant to be.
especially if you're a people pleaser,
Oh yeah.
or anxious attachment, as you said, or yeah.
And so disconnected from my own preferences.
Hmm.
It's one of the things that I'm ranting about with the school system. There's not space to find yourself in
Right.
that. There's space to find who you conform in society with. But the somebody tell me who to be and I will be that. And so the
Hmm.
profiles in the beginning were great because I'd answer a bunch of questions and it would tell me who I was meant to be because of that.
Hmm.
And it was really helpful until
Hmm.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it
Right.
then became the container. And yes, I
Hmm.
am that, but I am also so much more than that. And so,
Hmm.
which goes back to, and we did this off the recording, but the embracing the uncertainty.
Hmm.
How does one embrace the uncertainty? And there wasn't much I wanted certainty around in our conversation today, but there was an element of, we're going into the unknown. In terms of, I mean, in terms of the conversation, we're fine. Like, I knew you and I would
Uh,
be fine in the like
yeah.
but in terms of responding to potential shifts in alters for you, that's an unknown. And my own anxious attachment kicks in. I'm like, what's the right thing? Who do you want me to be? What do you want from me?
Hmm.
And also respect for you and respect for the
Hmm.
alters, and how do we navigate that? But we're all looking for certainty somewhere. And the profiles can be, if we don't have that elsewhere, it can help.
Hmm.
Um, I remember learning years ago, this is a bit of a sidetrack, but it just popped up in my head. The masculine energy in the relationship is meant to determine the values, and the feminine is meant
Hmm.
to sort of bring them to life. Now, I don't know that I agree with that,
Oh my
but
God, the internal conversation in here right now of that. Holy shit.
but
There's
I
like
rem
they've got pitchforks and torches.
and now I probably have pitchforks and torches to that as
Yeah.
well. But when I first heard it, I went, great. And I went to my husband, Michael, and I said,
Hmm.
you decide the values and I'll bring them to life. And
Oh,
oh, was that the cop out of not having to find my own values and find my own
it's
identity?
also a very Judeo-Christian Islamic centered way to look
Yeah.
at it.
Um, but it was very much, you tell me, and I am going back to Michael's parameters versus techniques. I am a
Hmm.
parameters person. You give me the parameters, you give me the technique, and I'll not play very nicely at all. But you give me the
Hmm.
parameters. So you give me the parameters, you give me the values of our life, and I will live up to
Hmm.
them. And what that meant, though, was that there was still so many parts of me that were being denied opportunity.
Right.
business is not one of my husband's values. Like, it is so far the antithesis of his values. And that created a lot of tension in the beginning. And then when I go and I say, well, what are the values? And I'll live up to that. Now, his values for me as a wife are lovely, but it contains me in wife and mother, and there is no Amy. And so
Right.
the profiles can be used the same way. It's like, you tell me who I'm meant to be and how I'm meant to act, or they can be used in the expansive way. And so playing with that, it's definitely an exploration of growth.
We just had a rainbow appear.
Nice.
Looking out just now, like the light just changed. There's a rainbow. Yeah.
There's a rainbow. Beautiful.
There you go. Yes. Great. There's, I'm not sure I buy into that masculine and feminine. I mean,
I was gonna say, we can put that aside. It was more just the thought, but it was
Amber is really pissed off right now.
I am certain that that's probably triggered. Like, if I think about the people that I know in my audience that will probably watch this, I've probably triggered all of them as well.
But we all have our masculine and feminine parts, and I think some profiles, they don't open up as much as they could to that. And so we have to be open to interpreting the profile in alignment with our own values and our own lived experience as well. Now, our masculine and feminine parts tend to be I am one of the more masculine alters inside. There are a couple other very masculine. You just met Amber and Stephanie. Amber is the more mature, confident, sexual feminine. Stephanie is more of the young, girly feminine, right? But you could probably see some difference in how we were. But although, again, you could also see how if we wanted to hide the switching, we could well enough. Like, we could play all that off as though we were one person if we needed to. But it was the different masculine and feminine expressing just on this call.
There was something you said just then that I feel was important to highlight. It's the underlying perspectives that shape the profiles that we need to be aware of. So whenever we're utilizing the profiles, so contained within the profile are the patterns that people have observed, and that will create the contrasts that they're testing for to create the category that you're being sorted into. And then there are also underlying perspectives, philosophies, principles, whatever word. There's lots of P words there. You've got to love the alliteration of the wizard. But it's recognizing the masculine, feminine energies. There's a guy I followed for a little while. He's got a couple of books. It's not one that I would recommend, broadly speaking. It's one I would deliberately recommend, so I'm not going to name, but the extreme philosophies that underpin his perceptions and profiles, and it is extreme. So it's the testing. Does the underpinning philosophy, where this came from, align with me? And I think that's something I will do more of, is pulling the profiles and then also pulling the perspectives that have shaped the profile. So the Clutterbug lady, who I will share freely and openly, I did her certification. I love her. The philosophy that drew me to her was there is no one size fits all. And her philosophy is very much just like, it's not your disorganized. It's not that you are disorganized. It's just that you organize differently. And that
you are differently organized.
I am definitely differently organized, but hers is specifically speaking to the physical realm of organizing.
Right.
But that philosophy, anyone that comes with a one size fits all, instantly I will recoil from.
Yeah.
Because my own preference is for the differentiation and the variety, even within myself. Like, trying to get myself to follow a consistent strategy at the moment is difficult.
Yeah.
But under
your
every
lived experience
profile
is your lived experience.
Yeah.
Right. So if somebody came to you and said, this is the way to get your home in harmony for, if you're a wife and mother with kids these ages in Australia, this is how you do it. You'd be like, yes, I am those things. And that's not how I want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the same for business. There are so many
hmm
business coaches that I just don't, the hustle stuff, just,
Oh,
yeah, it's not in alignment.
yeah.
Now, for
The
some
my
people, that
way
would
or
be
the
a great
highway.
reference.
And yeah.
Yeah. And so understanding the underpinning, now the underpinning of this is the one way is a marketing message. It's
Right.
like it has to be promoted that way, because if you say there's many
hmm
ways, then who's going to buy your stuff? And I understand it from that marketing perspective. For me, truth is the word that comes up. It's not quite the word I want, but truth matters more than sales. I would much rather say, look, there's many ways you could do this.
Mm-hmm.
If my way resonates, come play.
Great.
My way
Yeah.
incorporates 50 different ways. Like I've even within my sister, you've got
Well,
many choices.
right.
My way is not a one size fits all, even for myself. It's but yeah, it's allowing for that expansion, and but understanding why. Why is that philosophy there?
hmm
There's a coach I'm watching at the moment, and she has divorced recently and is so bitter. And some of the messaging that's coming out, there's lots of very bitter women that are resonating who have been through quite, and it's like, I get it. And yeah, no, thank you. Like, it's
Yeah.
just not my thing.
hmm
But understanding the philosophy under the profile, understanding the patterns contained within the profile, and then looking at, to go back to what our topic was meant to be, the potential false dichotomies. So
Oh,
have they contrasted two things that are not
that's
necessarily in
right. We did have a
contrast?
topic, didn't
we,
we?
we, we, we did. And I knew that we would not stick to it, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
hmm
Is there anything you want to add before we wrap up? Because we did also kind of have a time limit too.
Oh, right. We can't have people listen. Yeah.
I mean, you and I can sit here for the rest of eternity
That's the thing.
discussing these
I know
things,
you,
I'm
you
sure.
invited me to add, and I'm like, wait a minute. Yes, I have like 3 hours of things to add, but I will refrain from now and instead just say, we are always delighted speaking to you, and we always have been, even when we were a hidden system. And we are even more delighted now that, I think on this call we had four of us front, and all of us get to have our own conversation with you, and that has been wonderful. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. If people want to continue and follow up with what you do and where you are, what's the best way for them to do that?
Um, the best way, I would go to legalempowermentcoaching.com.
Yeah. Is there a formal space for I know you've been sharing some blogs from the dissociative identity stuff. Is there a website for
There
that yet?
is. I'm going to start. There is. We do on social media, and we do have a blog. And I was about to say we have to. We don't have to update the blog. We get to because we haven't written in about a
Yep.
month. We don't have to do anything. Um, but I'm going to start linking some of that. I would say for now, go to legalempowermentcoaching.com is the
Okay.
best way.
Yep.
Because I don't yet have a. Oh, actually, we do have an email address for the
Awesome.
system, so that the
Yep.
system it's called theempoweredmultiple@gmail.com.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Beautiful. We'll link those things under. I
Sure.
imagine this video is
Mhm.
going on YouTube. I'm still playing with where this all ends up, but we'll have links to that and messages. As always, a pleasure and a delight to explore with you, and hopefully our audience has taken something in the way of their own perspectives and their own
Mhm.
preferences in what their approach to life could and would be in their ideal world.
Yes, and Amy and I, we're not saying it's our way to do it. Take what resonates and leave the rest behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would experiment with what doesn't resonate. Sometimes if we want different
hmm
results, we need to do different things. And so the things that don't resonate, it's worth exploring and experimenting with at least a little bit. And if it then doesn't resonate after you've brought it into the experience, and I think that's one of the things Now I'm going to go on a rant. So much for time.
All right.
It's one of the things that I see people do all the time. It's like, that doesn't resonate for me. I'm not getting the results that I want. This thing doesn't resonate for me. I'm not willing to try it. I'm not willing to experience it. And it's rejected on face value without going into the experiential.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us have very logical fronts, like the society expects us to be reasonably logical. And as a result, we dismiss the more creative, the more experiential. If I think about Stephanie that came out today, it was reasonably short-lived because it's hard to have a conversation like this with the experiential beings. It's the logical fronts that get to play out more, but allow it to run through both the logical. Does this resonate logically? Probably not. Does this fit what I want? Possibly not. What's the experience of it? And tapping into, how do I do this experientially, and then see if it resonates or not. So allowing it past that logical gatekeeper into the experiential. Years ago, I did a training, and we were looking at different archetypes, and we were basically encouraged to pick the archetype we had the most distance from and embody that for a day, which had me walking through Melbourne main streets dressed in full jester costume with makeup. And oh yeah, it was, and my jester was out there. There were a couple that had stepped into like a sex goddess walking through Melbourne in like full sex goddess. So it was, and some got changed on site. I opted to fully embody and go through the town to the place where we were doing the training. But that experiential, and what I will say to that, I'm like, why did that come up? What I will say to that, the first 3 hours of that, my jokes were, A, they were awful, but B, they were so unresourceful because it was such a they were cruel and they were dismissive, and it was going through that bad experience into, okay, well, now I can do humor with compassion. Now I can do humor without tearing others down. Now I can do self-deprecating humor as opposed to making everybody else feel bad. And that served me really well when I then went on to comedy school and had the very first joke that I told on stage did not land with the audience. But because I'd done it so badly for that day, I then was able to self-deprecate in the moment. So rather than telling the audience they were dumb for not getting my joke, which there was definitely a part of me that wanted to do in that moment, it was the ability to pause and self-deprecate. And in that self-deprecation, I won the audience back. And I don't remember anything after that. I then survived and dissociated. Like it was 5 minutes on stage. But the experience of components of us that are not familiar are going to feel very uncomfortable. But if we dismiss them in that until you're good at it, I can't remember which mentor it was, but it was basically continue persevering with this until you're good at it and then decide whether you like it or not. My husband did that with carpet laying. He persisted until he got good at it, and then he quite enjoyed it and found ways to love it until his wife encouraged him to go make more money as a train driver. But there's that piece of, it's really easy logically to go, this doesn't resonate. And that's okay. It doesn't have to resonate. And you can dismiss it at that point if you want. Stepping into the experiential. What if I tried that for a day? What if by all means, take what resonates, dismiss what doesn't resonate. But I would invite you to allow it to go beyond the logical resonates into the experiential resonates. I'm like, how did I get on this rant? That's how I got on this rant. So thank you, Ian. I'm sure you probably have more that you could add as well. I am going to stop the recording, and I'm sure you and I will chat for a little bit afterwards. And for anyone looking to connect with Ian, head to Empowered. I've forgotten the website.
Legal. Well, you can. Our business oriented stuff is legalempowermentcoaching.com. And if you want to email us as the system, it's theempoweredmultiple@gmail.com.
Beautiful. You did that much better than I was ever going to. And if you want to connect with me, my links will all be there as well. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for watching. I hope you got value. Now we're going to find the stop recording button. There it
There is
is.
one somewhere.
There it is. Beautiful. Thank you all.